right, cool. Says it has excellent collection. That'd be a good way to start this. Hi everyone for joining us. We're gonna get started in a minute. We're just doing a few audio checks. A good way to start this. Yep.
Recording in progress.
So okay. Audio is good.
Yeah, you can hear me as well.
Yep.
Nice.
Okay, so am I kicking off?
You can do, yeah.
Cool.
I'll put the timer on.
Oh, better put mine on as well. I've got a fancy new Apple Watch. I can do the whole. I don't know. Okay.
I've got an iPhone, like a commoner.
Yeah, you are a commoner. Look at your face. I'm just kidding. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. Thank you for joining us. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I am joined as ever by the indie developer Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
Let's do this. So today we're going to be talking about something that got announced, which is something a bit big and chunky, and something that you push your thumbs around on.
And the games console's been announced as well.
Oh yeah, that too. That is true. I'm not talking about my wife, by the way. God, that was a terrible joke. Taking that back. Anyway, let's crack on. But we might touch upon something else as well. We've got other stuff. So.
Oh yeah, did you write it down? No,
I
didn't, Vin.
But it's okay. I might bring it up in a little bit. But there's some news around Netflix as well. Maybe.
Okay, yeah, we might go on to that.
Maybe.
But we have the OLED killer that's been announced.
Indeed.
Wait, should we do what we've been up to first?
Yeah, we should. Chris, What have you been up to, man?
I have been up to Eco. I've downloaded it. Okay, so here's the story. So, I was on PlayStation Network, and I was like, what game am I going to play? And you recommended Bloodborne. And I downloaded it, and the download was taking forever. And I thought, I'll download Eco as well, and then I can pick and choose whichever one does downloads quickly. I think probably Eco would first.
Right.
Long story short, I last week, I need to apologise to PlayStation. Apologies, PlayStation. I said that your downloads were rubbish versus the Xbox. It turns out that I somehow unplugged the Ethernet cable from the back of the PlayStation. And I didn't have a spare one, and I thought, I could have sworn there was one plugged in. Anyway, so I ordered an Ethernet cable, went to play Eco, couldn't play it. Yeah, so that's the story. I'm getting all muddled up. Went to play Eco, and it was like your connection is unstable because it's streaming from PlayStation Network. You can't download it from PS Now.
Yep.
So you have to stream it, and it wouldn't stream because it said the connection was unstable. So yeah, that's how I found out the cable wasn't there. Got the cable, started to play that. Before that, I started to play Bloodborne. I don't like Bloodborne.
You don't?
It's not. No.
Interesting. Well, how far did you get? That's the real question.
Well, not very far.
Far
enough.
Did you make it past the first boss? That's the real question.
No.
Okay.
No. I got, I just saw... There was nothing... I don't get it. I posted on Twitter and people were saying, this is why it's good. And I was like, okay. For me, it's like, there was a big open level with one place to go. And there was like 20 characters, all with one of 3 meshes. All doing the same thing. Not behaving in a weird way. I don't get it. I was trying to get some narrative hook to keep me.
Oh, there's no narrative hook, but I would say, I'm probably going to speak for all of the Souls community, as it were, and sort of save them a comment. But you have not officially tried Bloodborne yet. That's okay. I will say that for them.
I kept dying.
I don't agree with that statement. I don't agree with that statement, but that's probably what most people would say. If you don't make it past the first boss, then you haven't really tried it, sort of thing. Which I kind of get, but at the same time, if it's not for you, then it's not for you.
I really liked the combat, I must say. Over Dark Souls, I liked the combat, I liked the gun.
I much prefer the combat, yeah.
And I like the fact that the weapon is interchangeable and you can make it longer and shorter, and you've got the different attack styles and different types of dodging and the way that worked. I thought that was really good. I was really happy with that. I just am terrible at that sort of game. And for me, when I die, it's a failure. It's not like I've earned the satisfaction when I get past this next bit. It's like, no, it's just meant that you've had to redo it, and the redoing doesn't build an achievement bar in my brain. It builds a frustration bar.
I see.
And the frustration bar got to the point where I just thought, do you know what? even if I do get past this bit, there's nothing so far that's told me it's going to be any different to what I've been playing.
That's fair.
And therefore, I just couldn't get that enjoyment. So I understand that people have enjoyment in that death redo achievement, sense of satisfaction loop.
Yeah.
It just does not stick with me. I think again, maybe it's because I'm the kind of guy that's like I don't like reviewing content. Like once I've seen content, I rarely revisit it. Like films and TV shows, I'll rarely go back. Video games, I rarely go back. And also, I feel guilty because I'm trying to build my own game, and there's that whole thing going on at the same time, and everything's pulling me out of the experience basically.
Okay.
If I lived in this parallel universe where I had unlimited time, then yeah, I might throw myself into it a bit more. But every death and every redo of the bit that I'd seen made me think, shit, how much of this game am I gonna know backwards and inside out, but still die just because I mistimed this, that, or the other. So yeah, it's not for me, but I'm happy that it exists and it's good for people. And the good news is that means it's one less game in the back catalogue that I need to play. So
that is true. That is true. Although you probably have to add a Sekiro to that list, because if that's normally the next thing that people normally say. Oh, if you don't like Bloodborne, you should try Sekiro out. And then,
yeah,
but
exactly.
Who knows?
Well, no. Instead, I tried Eco. So I got the Ethernet cable, started streaming that, and I'm 3 hours in now. It's great.
Really, I was not expecting
great.
that. Most people. Cause, full disclaimer to people who don't know, if you are watching this and you have watched me before, how the hell you missed this? But Eco is my favorite game of all time. It always has been.
I've never heard of it. You've probably been talking about it for a decade.
Yeah, easy. Without
since
a doubt.
I've known you, you've been talking about it, and yeah, fair play. But it just passed me by because it just wasn't in my.
I mean, it's a 20-year-old game. I normally when I tell people oh, you should go and check out Eco. They're normally yeah, but it's old, and then they play it and then they're yeah, it's still kind of archaic and old. And I get that. Normally I'm just you know what? It's definitely a game that is filled with nostalgia for me. I still replay it every couple of years. I still think it's absolutely amazing. I think it's such a benchmark for what an action adventure game is now. If you play that game and you realize it was sort of the first action adventure game, that sort of style of game, you see it in so many games now. It's got so much Uncharted in there. It's got so much Tomb Raider in there. It's got all of those.
It's better than Uncharted 1. Games should have gone better from Eco. Games went downhill briefly after Eco. Uncharted 1, there are some clunky things in Uncharted 1 that Eco does better, and that is an achievement. I was impressed every time I was playing Eco. Yeah, some of the animations are well janky, and some of the meshes.
Oh yeah, for
some
sure.
of the helmets morph and the textures and this, that, and the other. But sometimes the animation is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all hand animated as well. None of it is motion captured.
The birds and the animation on the birds. How the hell did they do that? They're so good. And the enemies, with the limited resources and textures and skeletons and the way they must be animating the AI is so clever for the time.
Yeah, for people that have never played Eco, it's basically an action adventure game where you're trying to escape a castle basically with this girl that you've found, and you're trying to work together, and she's got abilities and you've got sort of climbing abilities, and you're sort of working together to get through.
She can open doors basically.
She can open
That's
doors,
her ability.
basically. Yeah, to be fair.
She cannot sit on a switch.
Right.
She has a really good way. She can't. She's supposed to sit on switches. She's supposed to get in a hole. And she just gets out of them and walks down the other end of the corridor for no reason. It's really annoying.
Yeah, the best sort of way to describe Eco though is it's very much like an action adventure game, like you would expect from an Uncharted game.
It's like Uncharted, yeah.
But it's sort of mixed.
Climbing.
It's got this whole mix of
combat.
I'm trying to think what game does it remind me? I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It's Myst. If you've ever played Myst, it's sort of like Uncharted meets Myst. Even a weird way.
I think it's more like Resident Evil meets Uncharted.
That's fair. Yeah, without crazy zombies.
Yeah, it's got without the crazy zombies, but they're kind of demons, and you've got a set the original Resident Evil with the first tripod cameras thing.
Yeah.
Because you've got the enemy feedback loop mixed in with puzzles, mixed in with the way the narrative is, the way that the gameplay and the level design and the narrative all gets delivered all mixed up all in one go and presented in this really interesting way. Like the way you figure out how to swing on chains and things. Just like, I'm just so impressed.
Yeah.
Like everything about it just impresses me. I'm just like, geez, how did they do that then? And then I'm like, how come games weren't like this after that? You know?
Like no HUD. There's hardly any music. It's very much like just about atmosphere in that game.
But the music,
right?
The music when you hear the enemy music, you know that you have to go back and help the princess, or the elf, or whatever she is, the woman. And that's just like, there's nothing that tells you that. You just learn it. So when you facing the enemies and you can see them come in, you hear the music, and then when you're like doing a puzzle, she's not in the room, and then you hear the music. There's no other cue, except the music.
No, it's great. It's such a great game for game designers. That's normally what I tell people. Like if you're just a gamer, like you'll probably enjoy Shadow of the Colossus a lot more because it's more gamey basically. But Eco is such a great sort of study for how to design a video game, like in terms of level design and puzzle design, and like how like you should frustrate the player, not to the point of frustration, but
it's the perfect blend of
it's
discovery.
It's just a great game.
Yeah, and the combat mixed in with it is just the right place. Yeah, the AI of the woman is infuriating, but I forgive it for its age. But if I just play it thinking that she's either trying to be in 2 dimensions at once or is on drugs or both, and then it's fine, because like you would just walk down the corridor for no reason whatsoever. If the person was dragging you around in a daze suddenly wandered off.
That's I mean, that's a good thing about the game though, is like if you leave her alone and you're stuck at a puzzle, she'll walk over to like the sort of like a hint area and sort of like tell you, like, should just be looking at the thing like, hey, maybe you should check this out.
Here you go.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, why? Like, I understand I need to go there, love. Like, where were you 20 minutes ago when I didn't know what I needed to do? But now it's obvious that I need to go and blow up this piece of wood. You're just stood there in front of it, pointing at it, and then I light a massive bomb in front of you, and you don't even try to like take cover. Mad woman. But that's just all adds to the charm, I think.
Absolutely.
Just all these funny little moments as well. Like, it's funny as well. Which is just, I'm just blown away.
It's a great game. I really like. I can't recommend it enough, especially if people are interested in game design. Like it's such a unique experience as well, and it has a lot of balls to it. Like in terms of, like I was mentioning before, the fact that it's got no HUD, like it just does a lot of stuff differently. Like because you can tell like the lead designer Fumito Ueda, he was just an animator on like a Sega Saturn game before Eco, and then he just went to Sony and was just like, hey, I want to make this game. And they're like, okay, here's a budget. Like that's how it went back like 20 years ago, and they just gave him money, and then he made Eco, and he's never really worked on a game before, so it's like there was a lot of out of the box ideas because he just didn't know. Like he was just like stumbling his way through this thing, and it like came up with so many great ideas that we take for granted now. But
people didn't listen to and cotton on to, and still straight away.
Not straight away. They did eventually, I think. Like
they did eventually, but it took some time.
I mean, speaking of which, like you were just talking about Bloodborne, but the lead designer for Bloodborne, or the person who's basically credited for all of the Souls game, which is Miyazaki. Miyazaki, like the designer, he was just working a normal job. I can't remember what he was doing. It was something outside of the games industry though, and he played Eco, and Eco is the game that was like, holy crap, like this.
Wow, this is what games can be,
Right, this is what games can be, and then he joined the games industry, and the reason why he joined the games industry is because of Eco. And you hear similar things from, I think it was Neil Druckmann has mentioned Eco a few times in interviews, and it's just like you constantly hear it over and over again, and like when you play, you're like, oh yeah, absolutely, you can totally see all the influences like from all these games now. But it was the one that did it.
Is it Cory Barlog that did God of War?
I think he's mentioned it as well. Yep.
Yeah, I can see some bits in God of War, like the two character thing, how some of the levels are laid out, if you like, or allows for two people to exist in a game space, and I see some stuff there, and it's
no, it's a fantastic game though. How far are you into it? Like what point are you at?
So I'm like 3 hours, so I've just got past like the graveyard bits. So I've just learned how to swing on a chain.
Okay.
and get up onto a platform. So again, yeah, like 3 hours in, I thought all the core mechanics were
I know,
there.
all the way until the end. It basically,
Wow.
I mean, not core mechanics, but it introduces new things, and there's something
All
that
the way.
happens like 2/3 way through it, something happens, and it's like, okay, this completely changes everything, and
Wow.
it just keeps elevating as well.
There must have been 10, 15 years where that just didn't happen in games.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we was at uni, that just never happened. They'd do the tutorial, that'd be like the first third of the game, and then it was just unlocks and like ammo upgrades or like capacity upgrades. There was no, so yeah, it's just great. I'm stealing so much stuff of my future games career. I'm like, shit, man, I could just redo this whole game, just put a different skin on it now.
Yeah.
Because I can make skins look better. Do you know what I mean? And I could just rip off some character controllers that might work a bit better. Camera following, because that's the only things that are a bit janky. So like some of the camera positions.
Yeah, the camera is
following.
like the main thing, I guess, and maybe the controls, like just trying to get used to jumping with triangle instead of X.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing. But even like after a while, it sort of makes sense, like to in a weird way. But
because it goes up and then X goes down. So when you're jumping off a chain, X goes down. Like of course it does. Yeah.
But again, it comes back around to that whole like thinking outside of the box thing, where he's just like he didn't know, and he was just like, okay, yeah. So to climb will be that, and then to go down will be X. It's like to a normal gamer, it's like, are you insane? You don't do that. He's like, well, I don't know. I'm just making a game. Like it's great. Yeah. I love it.
But back then as well, again, you could do that and get away with it more than now.
Absolutely.
Like you literally couldn't do it now. Yeah. But back then, and again, Japanese games, they can get away with, like Metal Gear, you can get away with button layouts that a Western developer would have just gone a different way. Not saying it's right or wrong or different, but some Japanese developers, they can...
Yeah, they can be a bit more... I don't know, like the word creative, because they are very conservative about certain things in games design, but then there's other things where they just go to balls to the wall and they'll just try anything. So it's very hit and miss, but yeah, great, fantastic game. Like if anyone hasn't played Eco, then
and I was expecting to be impressed, but I'm surprised about how old it for its age, how enjoyable it is. Yeah. I think it is because I'm like a game dev. I'm just like, oh my god, this is like a perfect way to introduce this sort of thing with minimal blah blah blah. And I could talk about it. We could do a whole podcast on it. Really,
I'd be happy to do like an Eco spoiler cast. That'd be I'm up for that.
So when I'm finished with it, we could do like a dev deep dive into it. Maybe that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm up for that. That'd be cool.
Okay,
sweet.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I haven't played.
Have you played Mass Effect 2? Yeah.
No, I haven't.
No.
I really haven't played that many games this week. I booted on my Xbox Series X because I really haven't played any games over the past sort of 2 weeks. I've been painting a lot, like at home. I've just like working on my own stuff, and
Swamp Lady.
Yeah.
Or Lake Lady. What you call
Lake Lady?
What's her name? Lake Lady. What's her name? Got a name?
Lady of the Lake. No.
Lady of the Lake. Okay. Because is it the Excalibur?
No, it's not.
No. Okay.
But I mean, the story behind, like, if you haven't seen it, you can go and check on my art station. It's Vin Hill art on art station. You can go and look at the top painting that's on there, like the first one. Like you'll see it, what we're talking about. But I painted this picture of a woman that's stood in the lake, and under the water she's got like a broken sword that she's using. But the story behind that was, I'm a massive nerd. Bear with me.
What?
But I know, right? Brace yourself. But I read a lot of like British archaeology books and like Iron Age stuff. But in the Iron Age, we're constantly archaeologists are constantly finding
women in swamps or lakes.
Exactly. Yeah, just walking around, and they're annoying as hell. And just like, get out of your love, we're trying to work. No, that's not what's happening. But they constantly find items in on riverbanks and in springs, which are items that have been specifically made for ritual sacrifice. So what they do is, but what they did anyway back in the Iron Age, they would make a sword and then break it in a ritual. So it was a brand new sword; it was never used. They'd break it in a ritual and then sort of give it to the water as an offering. Still don't know why. Really weird sort of like ritual. We've never really archaeologists have never really gotten their head around. They still don't know what it's about. But from swords to clothes to shields to whatever, and it was sort of like the painting was surrounded by that, and I was trying to think about like if someone came back for one of the broken weapons for whatever reason, like being undead or whatever. But that was sort of the idea behind it. But yeah,
I might get that one framed. I'm really liking that one.
I had fun with it. I mean, it's bombing on social media, but I had fun painting it. But it is what it is.
Yeah. When I move in and I get some frames and I get some wall space and I get a nicely painted wall.
Yeah, you might creep some people out because the woman in the paint is definitely dead. But yeah, I've actually got a nicer one, like a nicer one, not like better or anything like that. But I've got a nicer concept, like where people aren't dead, coming out, which is it's like a geisha one. It's set in a tea house, but I'm gonna be finishing that off over the next couple of days, I hope. So that should be up soon. But that's all I've been doing, man. Like I turned on my Xbox Series X yesterday, and I played like half an hour of Yakuza 0 because that was like loaded up, and like I did the quick resume thing, and I was like, all right, I'll play that for half an hour, and I played that for half an hour. But that's literally about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too much other than character controller stuff, which can't really get into really because nothing really, like, it was very nitty gritty weedy stuff, like just fixing bugs and stuff.
You did a tweet that you enjoyed fixing bugs.
I do, to start with. Like, you know, when you open up your computer and you open up Visual Studio, like, you're not just going to dive in making a new feature sort of thing. Like, okay, today I'm going to work out X, Y, and Z. Like, first I just like to clean a few bugs, and it sort of gets the ball rolling. And I'm like, okay, cool, bugs are fixed, go back to the feature. Hey.
I'm coming at it from a different place. So I'm like learning the coding. So I'm following tutorials. And so if I've followed it and it's wrong, it doesn't work. And so
you can't. You haven't gotten to the stage where you can figure out the bugs yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's not true. I mean, I have got to that point where I've looked at words on the screen, read it, understood what it means, and then written words to make what I want to happen. That has happened.
Yeah.
It is not an enjoyable experience for me. It's just like if I have to like stop my session and then come back to it, it's just anxiety. Like I'm gonna forget, like, because whenever I look at a code that's like a day old, I'm like, I have no memory of this. Like I have no idea what I was doing, and I sometimes have to find like the tutorial I was following to figure out what I was trying to do, and so yeah, it fills me with dread. I hate it. So I make sure I get it all done, so I don't have to worry about it. And so, like, literally, when I was working on my game, and I was working on a slightly new mechanic where I was kind of like jerry rigging an old mechanic into a new mechanic, and I kind of didn't need to figure anything out. I was just clicking and dragging prefabs, hiding and not hiding scripts, so like not making scripts active, making script active, and they would just like work. And I was like, I'm glad I don't have to do any bug fixing on this. I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point where you cross a bridge, and it's a good day when it happens. And it took me a while to get to that as well. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like this was an overnight thing that I just picked up, but like you get to the point where you're like, oh man, this is broken. I have to go back and look at the tutorial and think about it and like really comb through. But then there'll be this day where you think about, okay, actually I think I might know why that's actually happening, and then you go and look at the line of code, you tweak it, and then you go back and it's fixed, and you're just like, I am a genius, sort of thing. And when that day comes, it is the greatest thing, because the ball rolls bigger and bigger and bigger, and you get to the point where you just stop looking at tutorials. Like I'm at that point, which is dangerous now, because you have this little weird in-between area where you know exactly what you're doing and you're following tutorials, but I'm in this middle section where I'm just writing my own code like a moron, and like it could be like the worst, hackiest code in the world that could break something further down the line. I've just got no clue because I'm just ignorantly like just going for it. But like I'm not following any tutorials anymore, which is great because I'm sort of figuring stuff out. Like at the moment, my character controller is like, I'm trying to get my because my character can dodge roll across the screen, so it moves like a certain length. But if you're on a platform, I'm trying to basically stop her from rolling off the edge of the platform, like if she dodge rolls. So instead she gets to the edge and then just like rolls there and stands up at the edge instead of falling off, because it's sort of a feature that you don't really think about, but it's actually in a lot of games that we put this feature in all the time just for dodging. No, you can walk off the edge, but you can't roll off the edge, sort of thing. That's what I'm basically trying to implement and trying to detect, like, okay, the floor that I'm on, look for like the corner of the floor, so like I know where I am, and if I am getting near it and I'm rolling, then I have to stop her from moving over, and just trying to figure all that out, like in terms of code. Like, yeah, I could go and look at a tutorial, but like trying to figure it out is like part of the reason why I'm doing this, is to actually learn all this sort of stuff and sort of get a bit more literate at coding. So it's been quite a thing. Like yesterday, trying to figure out how to get her from stopping rolling over the edge, it was just, yeah, that was a long day, and it's still not finished, still didn't get it done. But yeah,
I would have just been like, she can either not roll off or roll off, and whatever's easiest will happen. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to like get over, is that automatic instinct to say that and do that and sort of give in to that. Like, oh, that's a lot of complicated code for a really tiny feature that no one's ever going to notice. But I've noticed now, and now I need to, and it is thrilling, like trying to figure out, because you do it in sections as well. Like I've gotten to the point now, it's like, okay, I've made her detect the floor that she's on, okay, and now I can reference that in code. It's like, okay, cool, I figured that out. And then the next thing is like, okay, the point where the edge is on that platform, you reference that in code and it works, and you see it on the screen in the debugger. And you're like, okay, cool, like I've figured that bit out. And it's just like, it goes through these layers of trying to figure stuff out. So it's still the same sense of achievement from it. But ultimately, like, I might finish the feature and just like, yeah, actually, I kind of like it that she rolls off. And it's like, all this gets thrown out, and that's just how it is. But I'm still learning stuff along the way, which is the most important thing, I think.
Because your goal is to learn. It's all hitting the intended reason for use. So, I mean, you've said that you don't intend it to be anything other than just a character controller.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make a game out of it, which I would love to see a game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure yet. I don't think, like, if I did make a game out of it, it wouldn't be sort of using this actual character. Like, I'd probably redo all the animations with a different character in a different setting. I might make a Metroidvania at some point or another, but it's just not, I don't know, like, the game which I have in my head is just, it's kind of different. Like, I've kind of got an idea for, like, a Metroidvania set in a Japanese village, and you're fighting yokai, but that's, like, a whole different thing. I need to write it all out. I've sort of written a pitch document out, but I haven't gotten to the point where it's like designed out yet. So it's still, I don't know, I just do it for fun now, but we'll see.
That's exactly why you should do what you've got now, because it's your first throwaway game. To do it, throw it away, do your second game.
Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Oh well. We should I know. We should definitely talk about some video games, though. I mean,
we should.
Yeah, we're
talking about dev stuff. This isn't a dev podcast. It's a video game podcast.
God damn it! Shut up, people. We want to hear about games.
We're not going to talk about video games. We're talking about hardware.
Let's go and talk about hardware. But yeah, speaking of which, do you want to kick us off for this one?
So yes, the OLED killer has been announced.
The OLED killer, the Switch OLED killer, anyway.
The Switch OLED killer. Yeah. So the Steam Deck from Valve has been announced. Hot off the heels of the Nintendo Switch OLED console announcement. And an interesting thing is that a Switch on a Steam pipe is a Valve.
Clever.
So there we go.
I'll give you that.
So yes, they obviously were waiting for the right time to announce this. Although there's been hardware in the hands of industry people that has been testing it, because straight away all these videos came out on impressions from not just
I think IGN got the exclusive, I think, but yeah, I mean, this is months in the making. I think you're right, like what you just touched upon there, which was they were very tactical about this. Like they were waiting for Nintendo basically to go, and they're like, okay, first we're going to see what Nintendo does with the Switch Pro, and then we'll sort of readjust our marketing strategy towards the Steam Deck. And they went with the OLED, and I guarantee it, when the OLED was announced, the Switch OLED, Valve had a very good day. Like, they were high-fiving in that office, like, yes, this is going to be awesome. We're going to sell out. This is going to be great. Like, and, they had a good day. Yeah.
And it was a really good day for lots of people, because lots of people are loving this announcement, because there were so many people that were disappointed, like us, with what had been announced with Switch, with the OLED. And that it didn't go far enough, and it wasn't like a next gen release. It was just a screen, really. and a LAN port.
I mean, I made the joke. I mean, like everyone else, I'm sure. Like, it's not a unique joke whatsoever. But I said, yeah, Valve just announced the Switch Pro. That's what I said on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's like everyone had the same sentiment. Everyone's like, this is exactly what the Switch Pro should have been. Like, why is this? Why are Valve doing this and not Nintendo? Like, it's crazy.
It as a roundup, before we get into the nitty gritty,
yeah, of course.
We'll get into the nitty gritty. It's like, yes, it's everything that the people wanted from the Switch and more, except you can't play. The downside is you can't play Nintendo games.
I mean,
unless
you
go down
but
emulation.
It's the emulation route. But we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, but for many people, it's like this is way more than I was even dreaming for with Nintendo Switch OLED, like Nintendo Switch Pro. Like, this is above and beyond. It's just it is it's a computer.
Indeed. I mean, like, looking at the specs, which probably isn't going to mean anything to most people, but it's an AMD Zen 2 CPU, which is pretty decent. AMD RDNA 2 GPU. That won't make much sense to many people, but it's got 16 gig of RAM. Basically, what it amounts to is, I think it's a little bit less than like 2 teraflops or something, which is about the same power as a base PS4 in your hand, which is a kind of a big deal. To be fair, like that's pretty good.
And if you're aiming for 720, which is the thing is, because there's no point having anything bigger on a is it 8-inch screen? I think
7. I think it is
7.
Yeah.
Right, but isn't it bigger than the OLED screen?
No, it's the exact same size. Yeah.
Okay, exact same size. Then it can play. You can play Control, and you can play all these cool games at 720p at crazy frame rates with no stuttering or no lagging. It's great, and the Switch can't do that. Like, it's underpowered in comparison to this by a long way. I mean, it was underpowered arguably when it was released. So
I agree.
So there's that. And the options available as well on the Steam Deck comes in 64 gigabyte, 256 gigabyte, or 512 gigabyte memory options.
Yeah.
But also micro SD slot.
That is the kicker. I mean, when I first saw the 3 sort of tiers for the memory capacity in this, I was thinking like, 64 really is not big enough. Like, you can fit like half of Warframe on, not Warframe, Warzone. Sorry, Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah,
you can fit half of that game on this.
You can fit half a game of Warzone, but or like one medium-sized title. So
right. So I mean,
problems there.
So it really depends what you want to do with this thing, though. I mean, if you've got a Steam library like myself, which has got like 200 games in it, like older games, not like new games, and you mainly game on a console for like the newer stuff, but then you've got all this retro stuff on the PC, it's perfect. You know, like it plays pretty much anything from like PS4 all the way down to obviously Windows and DOS and stuff. But the thing is, like, on top of all of that, you can also install third-party storefronts. So Epic Game Store, you can install the Ubisoft Connect store. You can like install Epic. I've already said Epic. Blizzard, sorry. Just all these different things. Like, it's basically a PC. That's it. And
it's basically a PC.
They're being super open about it as well. They're not even saying, okay, you can only use Steam games. Like, no, it's a PC.
No.
Like, do whatever you want with it. Like,
you can wipe it and install Windows.
Yeah.
What? Like, this is the thing. They've made it really appealing that. And apparently I've all heard good things from the Steam store that it works really well, that you shouldn't really need to unless you're doing like really specific stuff. And so and the fact that they've let it open for people to do what they want with it as well. Like, they've gone, you can do what you want. Like, you can uninstall it. You can install Windows. They've not tried to put any barriers in the way, which is really refreshing.
It's very refreshing. Yeah, it's really nice.
In comparison to Nintendo Switch, where you can only use Nintendo Switch's slow storefront that's been slow from day one. So that's really big contrast there. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see people emulate Switch games on this thing and see if it actually emulates Switch games better. Like, that would be a massive blow to Nintendo if that is the case. Because, like, I don't condone like emulation of games in the current gen, but like previous gen games, like, go for gold in my opinion. Like, I don't think it really matters. Like, the main reason why I'm looking at this thing is not only because you can plug in a micro SD card into it, so you can expand it like by a terabyte, which is bananas for one. But the main thing which I'm looking at is emulation, like old school emulation. Like, I'd love to play some PS2 games on this thing. because it's actually really hard to play PS2 games these days. Like you really can't do it any other way other than through emulation. So like I'd love to boot this thing up and play PS2 games on the sofa. It'd be great. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And you can also get a dock for it, just like the Switch. Like, and you can just plug it in, and then like comes on your TV. Like, it's basically a Switch. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, when we had this discussion when it was first sort of rumored that there was going to be what was known back then as the Steam PAL. That's what it was called. And we sort of made fun of it and said, yeah, we don't really know how this is going to work that well. It depends on how much power is in it. But the fact that this thing is basically a PS4 makes a huge difference. Like, that's a big deal.
It's huge. And I'm having a great time on my PS4 Pro, but I can have a great time on that for sure. Just in comparison with storage-wise, was it 32 gigs for the Switch? So, you know, although we were talking just before this came on, but the game sizes are tiny.
Yeah, that is true.
For Nintendo. So what was it? I didn't look at the actual specs. Was it 5.7 gigabyte for Mario Odyssey? But what you were saying is because it's like a PlayStation 2 quality game.
It's PlayStation 3, I would say.
PlayStation 3.
It's probably about that point. Whereas the Switch Deck is probably PS4. Like, it's the best metric. I know that's super vague for people listening to this, but it's kind of like that's the best sort of metric we can give.
Ballpark figure of comparable quality. Yeah, I think it's fairly accurate.
But the difference is though is like while it has got the power of a PS4, when you restrict that to a 720p screen, you can start playing games at much higher sort of fidelities because they're only at 720p, which look great on a screen that's only 7 inches big. And
it's close to you, so you're all good. It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, the only time you'll ever notice it is exactly the same as the Switch. As soon as you dock it in, you put it on a TV and 720p is getting thrown at you, you're kind of like, ugh, that looks a bit grainy. But the difference is, with this case, you know, you can actually scale it and it's basically a PC. So when you do plug it into a TV, like it'll change resolution and stuff as well. I know it does that on Switch as well. It upscales to like 1080, I think it goes up to on Switch at the most. But like theoretically, you could do anything on the Steam Deck because it's basically just a PC.
A computer, yeah. So smaller games, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's going to be a trade-off between size of the pixels, so resolution or frame rate, but you've got that option.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like there are a couple of bad sides to this, which is like there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. Like they've given some answers, but they're vague, and we don't really know. Like in practice, like battery life is a huge thing.
Well, they've said 2 to 8 hours, depending on what game you're playing. That's a huge, that's a huge disparity, and it depends on what game you're playing. Because of the versatility of this machine, though, fair enough. Like
I know,
AAA
totally
games that are like designed for massive, which are designed for consoles bigger with than this. Or you could go like what you said, like go all the way back and play old school like PS2 games, where this is like a beast.
Yeah, it's gonna it's overkill basically.
So, and you've got everything in between. So I think
it's a hard metric to give. Like the only thing that they could have done to sort of quell people's questions about that was to give some examples of certain games and be like, okay, Red Dead Redemption runs for 3 hours on this thing. Then Portal 2 runs for X amount of hours. I mean, they might have done that like with a couple of games already, so forgive me if that is the case. But I'd be interested to see like the spreadsheet and be like, okay, how long is this thing actually going to last, like vaguely based on the sort of games which I play. But yeah, absolutely fascinating. But how do you sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, just in comparison, the Switch, say 4.5 hours to 9 hours.
Right.
So that's still a lot of hours.
Big disparity,
disparity for a company who are making games solely for that.
That is a very good point. So console. It's probably on par with that,
What was the question?
The question which I had for you was, how do you think this thing looks? Like, because there's been a lot of heated debate online. You could say.
I think it looks fine. Like, it's busy, but it's because it's got so much options. Like, you've got 2 buttons on the top.
Yep.
You've got two controllers, thumb controllers.
Yeah.
You've got 2 triggers on the back. like trigger buttons. You've got a touch screen because it does touch screen, and you've got 2 mouse pads.
Yeah.
And you've got like start and option buttons as well on the top. So it's button heavy.
It's very button heavy. Yeah.
But I like that because they're giving complete full freedom for developers to use those buttons in their game. So it's complete free reign on mapping the buttons. And when I heard that, my mind was just like, oh my god, there's going to be people in the next couple of years that are going to be designing, building, and releasing indie games designed specifically for this console. And oh my god, that could be amazing with the buttons, the amount of button options they've got. Like, it can come up with some really creative stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fascinating because, like, while and I'm one of these people as well, like, while people give them criticism because Valve have tried to get into the hardware space before, and they failed twice already. They tried with Steam machines, and they also failed with the Steam controller, which I think is great, by the way. I don't think it was a bad... Like, and the weird thing is, these two products that they put out before, they were not bad products whatsoever. They just failed on the market for whatever reason. Like, they just didn't take off, which is a shame, because Steam machines are a really cool idea, as were the controller. But the reason why this has so much potential is because it actually uses a lot of the technology they already built in the past, which is like the touchpads. They've already set up the whole of like sort of Steam's infrastructure to sort of support these 2 touchpads that are on the Steam controller. So they've sort of got infrastructure for that already. And then all of the software behind the Steam machines, which was Steam OS, is also going into the handheld. So they've already trialed this thing. So that gives me a lot of confidence, but also gives me a lot of worry at the same time. So it's this weird juxtaposition between the two things. But I think it's an absolutely fascinating thing. I think it looks fine, by the way. I think it looks a bit clunky and a bit big. Like the way that the pictures are, it kind of makes it look like you're playing games like this, you know, instead of like this. But remains to be seen until you actually get it in your hand. You never know. Like I just bought an Apple Watch last week, and like watching all the videos online, I thought, okay, it's probably going to be about this big, right? It's going to be a bit big on the wrist, and then I get it, and it's like, okay, that's actually tiny. Like I was not expecting. So would it be the same? Would the Steam Deck feel like that sort of size disparity? I'm not too sure, but we'll definitely,
because all the marketing wants to fill the screen with what it looks like, obviously. Right. At least in the marketing campaign, they never had anyone sat there in their front hall on a chair facing the stairs, like smiling their head off playing, like they did with the Switch. What was that about?
They always do that.
It's just like, here, play your Switch in your home, like on a wooden bench facing the stairs, like everyone does.
Yeah, none of it makes sense. Yeah,
that was just odd choice. But yeah, no, I think it's great. I was thinking about my game as well, because I've been designing my game to be played on a one of the design elements I wanted to incorporate was to make a game that was as easy to play as possible. So it's being played as much on one joystick as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But now there's all these options on for the Steam Deck. I'm like, should I could with those back trigger buttons, I could map.
But then you also run the risk of alienating people. So if your game took off, you know, like, could you port it to the Switch if you had only back buttons, sort of thing? That would be a no. So you should only ever utilize the top buttons. Standard layout controller, otherwise you'll run into problems in that respect. That's what I would say anyway. That would be my
or have
advice.
the option for build in from or build it in to have whatever.
I mean that's actually another thing as well about Steam OS and the way that Steam have been sort of working on their sort of system, is that it's universal remapping, so you can remap any button to any sort of controller on Steam OS. So sort of solves your problem for you.
Because of the plethora of mouse input games that are out there that can use the mouse trackpads, and the fact that you've got 2 trackpads, and how that's going to work, if it's going to be one for each side of the screen, or I don't know, or that as well as the touchpad on the center of the actual screen. I don't know, but yeah, it's really exciting. Ray tracing, sports ray tracing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it will. Like, I think they're saying that. Like, I'm sure it does on paper. Don't get me wrong. There are probably a couple of games that could utilize it, but I think
2 frames a second. Like,
right? Yeah. I mean, it's like, you could technically do ray tracing on a PS4. You could technically. It just wouldn't be playable.
There's a reason why they haven't.
So
there's a reason why it can't. Yeah.
So them saying ray tracing is that's debatable. That's all I'll say. But
yeah, it's interesting. I think they're just trying to chuck in as much stuff that the Switch doesn't do as possible.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Yeah, the weight we've already touched on. So the weight is 669 grams for the Steam Deck, which is just under twice a Nintendo Switch.
Kind of heavy.
That is an issue.
Yeah, that's kind of heavy.
That is going to mean people are only going to want to probably play it for a couple of hours before putting it down. I imagine.
Right, you could do weights with it.
Yeah, because it's well over a small bag of sugar. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. And with accessibility, yeah, some people the Switch is going to be a more easier option.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's probably heavy, maybe even too heavy. But it's kind of like this whole system. The fact that this thing is pretty much already sold out, like through scalpers or whatever as well. Like they did the reservation thing as well as they could, and the way that they set it up, and it's not sold out anyway, but it's been reserved out, sort of thing. Like everyone's got reservations on this thing, so the fact that that's been successful already tells me that there's probably going to be a sequel to this thing, and I'd be much more curious where this goes in the second iteration or even the third, because if this does do well, I can fully expect, because the PC space is constantly iterating as well, so they won't be as cagey about doing like we're used to like mid-cycle refreshes of video game consoles right now. It's like every 3 years, whereas with hardware from someone like Valve on a PC sort of thing, like we can fully expect that once a year. I mean, look at the VR space, look how quickly that moves. I can fully expect
exploding.
I can expect this would do so run along the same sort of course.
Yeah, I hope it does really well, and I hope it takes off, and I hope this is the start of something that's really, really successful, because I think it's been needed I think now is the right time to release this. Like when all the past hardware failed, I think it failed because it was solving a solution that no one was really asking for.
I agree. Yep.
But now that I think Steam and indie games and small little video games here and there are so much more building up steam, that there is more of a need for it for this sort of hardware. And Nintendo Switch, and the Vita died because there was no games for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the killer part of all of this, is like, regardless of what you think about the hardware, Steam has got a library that is unmatched to anyone else in the industry. Like, it's you can't touch it. Like, regardless of the quality, like, we can debate about the quality of the games, absolutely, without a doubt. Like, that's a totally viable thing. But in terms of like actual volume, like, there's gamers out there that will not buy a Switch purely because they've got this massive library on Steam. It's like, I really can't justify trying to restart my
spend
sort of
all
library.
This money. Yeah, how much money you got to spend before you get one game with the Switch?
Right.
And like, if you just buy this console, you've got your back catalogue, in the palm of your hand.
That's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's probably the biggest part of this. And not only that, like, you can obviously like still access things like Game Pass through this thing. I'm sure, like, the only people that were really worried, like, a lot of people said, it's finally good to see some competition for Nintendo. Yeah. But honestly, I think the people that are really worrying about this is Sony. I think they're bricking it right now, because it's kind of like, okay, not only did this just kill off like the last of any sort of thing that we had with Vita, but they're really sort of pushing the market for Game Pass into the PC market now. With this sort of thing, because it's a kind of a big deal.
So you think they want to try and get PS Now onto this Steam Deck, or no?
No, I don't think Sony has a foothold into it, but that is something that we can talk about soon.
In the last showcase, they had a bit of an indie push, didn't they? And how they were talking with indie devs, and that kind of came off the back of some bad press that they'd had.
I think that's the only reason why it was there. If I'm being blunt and honest about it, I think that was damage control.
Damage control.
I think so.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how marketing goes. But it's kind of I think PlayStation have their own plans for what would be a Game Pass or a PlayStation Pass, whatever you want to call it. but I don't think it'll be through something with Valve anyway. I mean, I know they have got a deal with Valve just because they've been putting PlayStation games on there, and you will be able to play PlayStation games on this thing, which is sort of bananas in that respect.
Yeah.
But I don't think there'll be like an official sort of team up. It'll just be, okay, we just put PlayStation games on Steam in general, and if you can play on this, then that'd be great. But it's not, I don't think it's an official sort of partnership in that respect.
I don't think there's anything wrong with PlayStation not focusing on indies because the space is being catered for now.
That's fair.
But they should just go. But they should be open, transparent, honest about it.
Should be honest about it, yeah. I agree.
And not try to say the contrary, because it's one of those weird things where I'm in that situation where I'm thinking about what consoles I'd love to, like in an ideal like dream scenario, what consoles would I like to release on? Like, I would love to have my game on the PlayStation. That'd be freaking bananas.
Yeah.
But I am already put off with the bad press. Like, I know it's going to be the most difficult people to speak to about it. So I know that'll probably be the last console I get on. Do you know what I mean?
With indie stuff anyway, you're gonna have a hard time no matter what you do, and you will learn this in time, but you will be just thrown in the pool with all the other indies, and then you're sort of just there trying to float around, trying to float to the top, and it's near impossible basically, unless like something really catches one of the publishers' eye, or the console manufacturer's eyes, where they're like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, this actually looks really cool. We're going to showcase this a little bit and give it some good exposure. But if you don't, then you drown amongst everyone else, which is unfortunate, but it is.
That's probably not going to happen now that I've just said that.
Right.
They're probably not, or unless they're trying to do damage limitation, and they go, we need to get this on, and change his mind and get him to be like, Sony was such an easy, breezy way to get my game on there. I just press like one button and the game is on.
Stuff changes all the time as well. I mean, like they might have had some bad press this year, and they've like, okay, we're going to start a new indie developer division, and they're going to take care of this sort of stuff, and it's going to be great, smooth sailing from now on. They might rectify this.
Sony, if you're listening, give me a call, man.
I'll be a part of the guinea pigs.
I mean, the game's probably at least a couple of years away, but
exactly, yeah. So it's kind of hard to be thinking about. Like, you should be marketing your game by yourself anyway, but it's kind of it's interesting.
But yeah, back to the Steam Deck. Super excited. I want it to succeed. I think it's going to do really well. Did you hear how they tried to get rid of some of the scalpers? And I think it's really clever, where you got to reserve one on Steam if you had bought a game within the last sort of 12 months on Steam.
Interesting. Yeah, that is a good way of doing it.
So like active Steam accounts got priority over like people that were just registering, like scalpers would want to register a Steam account and buy as many as they could. Or people like or open up new accounts so that one person could buy more than one sort of thing. So I thought that was really clever. I heard one person on Twitter had trouble with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, scalpers have still gotten it though. That's the thing. Like, you'll never be able to stop them 100%. Don't get me wrong, but that is a great idea. I know there's Steam Decks on eBay right now for like $2,500, which is just like, oh god, really? Come on. And
for a reservation.
For a reservation. Well, yeah. I mean, once the thing comes through, they'll still send it out and give it to them for the same price. But it's kind of like, really, guys? Like, there needs to be some better communication with these platforms like eBay. Like, if Valve can just turn around to eBay and just be like, yeah, if you could just remove all the Steam Decks, that'd be great, thank you. Like, why isn't that conversation happening? And the same thing with PlayStation as well. Like, why is there constantly like 5,000 PlayStation 5s just floating around on eBay for 5 times the price? It's like, aren't you guys like talking to eBay and saying, can you remove all content with certain keywords and stuff? Like, it's kind of weird to me, but I guess they're selling consoles, so they don't really care.
Yeah, I guess they don't really care, and they're kind of they can kind of be almost a bit blameless.
Yeah,
in it.
And they are in a way.
Yeah, because it is the
capitalism.
I don't want to play devil's advocate, but it is the platform's responsibility rather than the manufacturer's, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Isn't it manufacturer's responsibility to manufacture?
Yeah, you're right. It's probably more of an issue with eBay than it is an issue with someone.
I think it's
someone like Valve.
I think government's responsibility to make sure that.
Sorry, I couldn't find my pitchfork then, but
I've got the torch here somewhere. Right. Yeah. Okay, I like it. I've got some matches in the cupboard.
Goddamn government.
Goddamn government. I mean, yeah, but
Taxes.
It's worldwide. It's just UK, Europe, US, Canada, everywhere. So they've all got idea.
I guess that's right. But I do believe like eBay or someone, they need to sort of cut down on this sort of stuff, because it's not fair at the end of the day. Like, there's people that are genuinely excited for this sort of stuff, and they're just getting ripped off by like faceless people. It's just really it's not cool, basically. But
or is it just supply and demand? Like, someone's willing to pay it, someone's willing to.
That's the thing. Like, if it didn't, like, the scalpers weren't getting paid, then it would be a self-correcting system. But they are getting paid, so who the hell am I to say anything? But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Everyone sucks, basically. Everyone sucks.
Everyone
We're all to blame.
Everyone is to blame. You are correct. It's a shame. But yeah, real quick, the last sort of story which I was going to mention was that sort of going back to what we were talking about before about Sony's sort of step into the industry of Game Pass and stuff. There are some rumors floating around based on a data mine which happened. So a data miner was sort of hacking through the most recent update of Netflix, which was a bit odd, because there was an announcement for a partnership between Netflix and PlayStation at the start of this year, but it wasn't really elaborated on. Like, they didn't really know what it was going to be about. Like, there was some talks about the whole fact that obviously Sony have got their whole film division that they publish movies, and they make a lot of money from that. So I think they were doing a deal with that. But there's basically images of like Ghost of Tsushima showing up within the Netflix app, which is nothing to do with a Ghost of Tsushima sort of TV show or anything.
Although that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. But it was basically the key art from the game, and also there was pictures of like PlayStation controllers and things like that. So there's a very, very high chance that this might be PlayStation's step into the Game Pass sort of industry of streaming games. Maybe you can stream games from Netflix.
So how would that work? So that you'd have to have some sort of controller that would sync up to Netflix through the TV?
Yep. So a DualSense controller works. If you've got a Bluetooth TV or depends what you use as well. So like, for instance, I watch Netflix through a NVIDIA Shield, which is basically an Android TV box set. It's got Bluetooth. I can connect my DualSense controller to it. You load up the Netflix app, just start streaming a game and playing it, just like you do with xCloud. So.
Okay.
And that might be their step. And I mean, to us, like, that seems like, yeah, it's just Netflix or whatever. But Netflix is huge. Like, it's hundreds upon hundreds of millions of users use that thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
So
more people have got Netflix than PlayStation users, owners, for sure. Netflix like to what's the right word? De-res their content, though?
Yep.
Well, they did in the pandemic because the usage just went through the roof, so they had to cut it down so it wasn't as high definition. I definitely noticed that the difference between Amazon Prime and Netflix. That Netflix was
it depends who does the server side. So on PlayStation Now, right now, it's done through the PlayStation sort of servers, obviously. And if Netflix were just being like, okay, we're doing a partnership with PlayStation Now or whatever, it's eventually going to get rebranded to, because it probably will at some point. If they did do a deal, then it would be, okay, you load up Ghost of Tsushima on your PlayStation Now account through Netflix, but you don't see all that. This sold in the back end, and then it actually diverts to the PlayStation servers. So then it wouldn't probably de-res, because it's nothing to do with Netflix at that point. It's being handled by PlayStation. It's just PlayStation are paying for the exposure of PlayStation Now on their system, or on their platform. Sorry. So yeah.
And playing Eco on it was very quick. No complaints.
Yep.
Once I had the
PlayStation Now isn't that bad. Like, it's actually a really decent service, but it's just lacking in content right now.
Yeah, there was just not much to choose from, like, which is why I went for Bloodborne and then Eco, and yeah. So not a huge amount on there, must say.
Yeah, but that's basically the extent of the rumor. Like, it's just PlayStation and Netflix are sort of working together in some capacity. We don't really know what capacity yet. It's just being data mined. PlayStation have still yet to have their E3 stream. Like, we don't really know what they're up to outside of like the little sort of game snippets that they've done for like Deathloop and Horizon and Ratchet. So it's kind of,
I don't know what they're going to talk about. I don't know what they're going to talk about, because they talked about the indie stuff, and they've already said they're not going to talk about God of War. So what else? And they've already said they're not going to talk about anything Spider-Man-y. So like maybe
More
some new
Horizon.
IPs.
Yeah, I mean, there will be new announcements, and it will be great. Like, I'm sure, because Sony always knock it out of the park with their sort of big
Yeah.
showcases, so I'm sure they've got a lot of stuff. It's just, like, the window is closing big time, because GDC is, I think, just starting next week, I think GDC is. So,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I don't even know when PlayStation can go anymore. Like, I was fully expecting them to be done by now, because they said July, and we're coming into the last sort of stride of July, so it's kind of I really don't know. We'll see though.
Interesting. It's it seems like an old adage that we're still waiting for PlayStation to say what they're going to be doing. It's like we've been saying that for months now.
Yeah, I hope it's good, man. God, it just sucked if it just came out and it was like, I mean, because we've heard of the news as well. Like, just to touch on this real quick, but we heard news out of EA this week that there's a list of games that they've announced which aren't going to be at the show. Like Skate isn't going to be at the show. Dragon Age isn't going to be at the show.
Yeah, that was the other one I couldn't think of. Dragon Age.
I think anything Mass Effect isn't going to be at the show. They said so. It's probably just going to be a load of FIFA and Madden and stuff like that, and maybe a couple of Star Wars IP. And if that's the case, then that's going to be a major bummer. That's going to suck. Basically,
the thing with Star Wars is that you can't. Like after 1313? Like you can't get excited about anything Star Wars.
Yeah, because it might just fall under.
Even when it gets made.
Yeah, Jedi Fallen Order was really good though.
That was a gem.
Yeah, it was such a great game.
Yeah, brilliant game. But how rare is it to get an amazing, brilliant Star Wars game? I mean, we've been spoiled, with that and Squadrons recently.
Right.
But tallying it up, it's been rough the last few years with Star Wars stuff.
That is true, and I think that's why Disney have sort of looked at that. They've taken a step back and thought, okay, maybe we should give other people a stab at this, and that's why a load of studios have announced Star Wars games, Ubisoft included. Like the Division team are working on the Star Wars game right now.
Yeah, really looking forward to like a Division style Star Wars. That could be cool.
It could be very cool.
Especially if it could be like if they could nail a Star Wars like online Division-y type game. That should be awesome.
That could be cool.
I would be so
and
into that.
And it's not just Star Wars either. Like Indiana Jones is obviously going to Bethesda. We've got Square Enix making Marvel games. Like this is getting cool. Like I'm glad that more people are getting a stab at this, man. Like it was getting really tiresome and old. Like this whole gated thing of only you can make this sort of game. Like only you can make FIFA games. Only you can make Madden games. Only you can make Star Wars. Only you can make it. It's like, come on, guys, just make games. Like if someone's got a cool idea and they come up to you and like, hey, I've got this idea for an awesome Star Wars game, we should make this. That's a good idea. Let's make it. Screw it.
But unfortunately, that's not the way it happened. It happened like, these games aren't making as much money as what we forecast, so we have to change it up now that it just hasn't made money.
Yeah.
Bad things happened, and therefore we have to change course.
Which same result, I guess. So it shouldn't be
same result,
too much.
but it should be. Yeah, it's come from the wrong place, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, that's true.
Not an ideal situation, but things are looking up though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
New console, all the cool stuff that's going to be happening. It just doesn't. This last E3 season, it just didn't feel like get excited about.
It was better. Yeah, I mean, it was better than last year in terms of like how stuff was paced out. It's just, and I understand like the pandemic and stuff, but like expectations were just like probably way too high going into E3. Like I was definitely guilty of that myself, but it was just like it was so underwhelming last month that it was kind of like, oh man, like the only people that got me like mildly excited was Microsoft with what they were showing. It was cool to see like a few of their things come to fruition, but it's just such a shame to not see PlayStation. Such a shame to see Nintendo like just having a really dull year. Like to be blunt about it, there's a lot of people getting excited about Skyward Sword right now, and I'm just looking at it like it's literally the worst Zelda game for $60, and it's not even up-res that well. Like I mean, it looks okay, it looks fine, but it's not.
It looks okay, yeah. It doesn't look. It doesn't look impressive.
It doesn't look $60. That's for sure.
No, no.
Like if you're gonna I mean, I look at this through the lens of things that Bluepoint do. Like when Bluepoint remake a game, like Shadow of the Colossus, the remake for that game was $40 at launch, and that game looks phenomenal. And that was a remake. If you're remastering something and reporting it, like you've got no right to put it at $60 in my opinion. I'll never buy it. because it's way too much. But to each their own. I just do not understand why people are buying this game and being hyped about it. I know it's got the Nintendo logo on it. I understand it. I get it.
Yeah. But
like,
to that, do you think that off the back of this Steam Deck announcement, do you think Nintendo are going to start making changes? Are they going to improve the console?
That
are
is
they gonna
that
make
is
changes
the
to
question,
price of
isn't
the
it?
games?
I mean, because this is competition for Nintendo. Finally, like this is competition for Nintendo. They've been dodging and weaving competitions for decades now, and this is the first real.
They've
contender.
had plain sailing for years. I mean, Vita was trying to again. I think the PS Vita were trying to target a smaller slice of that type of player, like premium handheld console.
Just didn't have the content now.
So it's like a fraction of the market versus what Nintendo was going for.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing is it's kind of like the consoles are roughly sort of they're along similar lines. Like if you got the base 64 gig Steam Deck, like it's about the same price as a normal base Switch at this point, or I think it is anyway. Like it's around. They're in the same window anyway. So if you're a gamer and you're walking to store, like, okay, I can either load up even if you haven't got a single Nintendo game, if you haven't got a single Steam game, if you're walking in and just looking at these things, okay, not only is the Steam Deck like 5 times as powerful, that's cool, but the price of the games on the Steam store is
$3 or $4 quid
biggest.
for cool indie, man, like cool games.
We're talking night and day.
Quid. Yeah.
Night and day.
Quid for like awesome games.
Yeah. And the constant sales, like the Steam summer sale, it's turned into a meme at this point. But like, there's literally hundreds of games that you could play every summer and every winter.
Humble bundles, galore. Like,
and once you get a gamer that's sort of tapped into that realization, being like, actually, by spending like $500 on a decent Steam Deck with internal memory versus the $400 on Nintendo, I'll actually be getting way more for $100 that I could have spent on games than I ever will on Nintendo. Like, no offense to Nintendo, they do make 10 out of 10 games, but they never have sales and their prices are way too high constantly. So it's sort of this weird, like it's hard to argue with, especially if you're a PC gamer and you've already got a decent library as well. That's just a bigger factor.
In an actual shop under real life conditions, I still think it's going to be difficult to sell. Absolutely. The salesmen have got a bit more of an uphill struggle to sell the Steam Deck over the Nintendo. The name just goes a long way. Always will.
Nintendo. It's this is Mario. This is Zelda. You know these names, and we don't have to tell you these games are going to be enjoyable because they are all enjoyable. Yeah. But that comes at a price, literally.
Yeah. But we shall see how well it sells to like non-gamers or people taking their first steps into games. And handheld games are great for kids because they can go to the room and play the game.
It's very early days, I think, in terms of just like pun intended, but the building up steam, as it were. But I mean, not this iteration, but the next iteration, like the Steam Deck 2, is where things get really interesting when the form factor comes down a little bit. Maybe the price even drops like a tiny bit. They've established themselves a little bit. And I'm trying to, I sort of look at this as like the VR space was like a few years ago. Like everyone was like Oculus VR on the PC, and then there's the Vive Index and all this sort of stuff. And there's all these different, like the PlayStation VR headset and stuff. There was all these sort of competition, and just suddenly out of nowhere came the Oculus Quest 2, and it just dominated the market. And now like they're the top market sellers. This could be that thing, and maybe it will take the Steam Deck 2, just like the Oculus Quest 2, before it gets that level, and it might just take off.
Just skyrocket. And it was only a few years between the Oculus Quest and the Oculus
Quest
quick. 2.
Yeah, really quick.
So it could be as quick, for sure. They could be already be working on iterations of this thing.
It's a fascinating time though. I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because it's going to make Nintendo sweat. It's going to make PlayStation sweat even more, because like, oh crap, this is going to bring Game Pass to even more people. That's the last thing that we need right now. So interesting times.
Are you going to get one?
I'm thinking about it seriously. Like at first I thought, it's not really for me. I'm a console gamer, but then I started thinking about emulation, because I'm a big sort of advocate for emulation within reason. Like I said, I don't go near like current gen stuff.
What a great T-shirt! Emulation within reason.
You know what? That would be a good T-shirt. I need to make that, emulation within reason. But yeah, I mean, you should always support your developers, and if you do emulate anything current gen, I have done that in the past. Buy the game. Like I bought Breath of the Wild and then played that on PC for the first time. Played it at 4K, looked way better, I enjoyed it way more. To each their own though. Like I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. Like do whatever you want. But for me, like playing PlayStation 2 games on this thing, I think that is cool. Just objectively cool. Like playing PlayStation 3 or GameCube games or older games that you can't like go out and buy anymore. Like, and there's plenty of games that just aren't ported over, or they are, and they're just ridiculously priced. Looking at you, Nintendo. So I think this is going to be a great little thing for a lot of different people, you know, like just from emulation to retro gaming to people that have got huge Steam libraries to indie gamers, people that do want to Switch Pro but Nintendo are just lacking. There's such a wide range of people this could appeal to, and I fit into one of those things. But how about you, man? Are you looking at this one seriously, or are you still going to wait?
I'm looking at it. I mean, if I do, it'd be a few years down the road.
Right. That's fair.
The only way I can think that it would be useful to me, because I'm in a fairly unique situation where I've got the run of the house, so I never have to think about that, and I'm never in a position. Well, I will be going back to work. I've been working from home since the lockdown started, so I've got used to that, and it's weird that I've worked at home more than in my current job than I did in the office. Which is weird.
I think I've just hit that as well.
The halfway mark.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's bizarre, isn't it? When you think
it's very
of it
strange.
like that.
Yeah, like the game that I'm on right now, which is Rainbow Six Extraction. Just everyone that I'm working with on that team, like there's two of the concept artists that I'm working with on a daily basis, constantly talking to. I've never met in person.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I went for like a team meal the other day, and like most of the team there of our team I'd not met in face to face. So it was like our face to face meeting was like out and a meal out, and and they're going to be meeting. They're going back to the office tomorrow. I've got my child is self isolating, so I'm taking some time off with him next week.
Have you got both of your vaccines at this point, or?
I've got one vaccine.
You're halfway through, right? Yeah.
So I'm halfway through, single jabbed. So yeah.
I just got my second one on Wednesday. So.
How was it from the first one?
Better, which I wasn't expecting. Like there's a lot of people like, oh, if the first one was easy, then the second one's going to hit you like a tank. Me and my wife were like, okay, I guess Thursday is going to be a rough day then. So we went and got the shot. Like, okay, here comes Thursday.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Get the ready meals in.
Absolutely nothing.
But you're all good. That's good.
And my arm like felt like I'd been hit by a car the same time, like the same as the first time. But by that evening, it was absolutely fine again, and it was gone completely. And I was like, okay, that wasn't nearly as bad as everyone was like saying. Nothing. Like there's, absolutely nothing. So like I'm fully vaccinated now. I'm super excited. Like another week and a half, and we can finally go out for a meal.
In people's faces, yeah.
Right, and start licking people on the cheeks again. I can't wait.
Licking door handles. It'd be great.
I miss them door handles.
Yeah, taste of people's hands.
Yeah. Yeah, get vaccinated. I mean, Christ, everyone get vaccinated.
Everyone get vaccinated if you can. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable.
It's nice to be able to lick people.
Do you know what?
Don't lick people. We're not condoning licking people.
Do you know what? It was just nice to be sat in a room full of people with no expectation for me to do anything.
Yeah.
That was like, man, when was the last time this happened? Like, God. So that was really nice.
Yeah, it's a relief, that's for sure. I mean, like as soon as I got my second one, it felt like, okay, I'm not going to kill anyone anymore. This is nice. You know, just shedding that like really crappy ability to just be able to kill your neighbors just by walking past them in the street. Like just not having that it's a great relief. And like right now, like I was reading articles over the weekend, which was 99% of the COVID deaths in the US alone are attributed to people that haven't been vaccinated. So just go and get vaccinated, man. Like just all die. Like it's up to you. But like I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you probably should go and get vaccinated.
I will tell you what to do, and I'm telling you to get vaccinated. So, yeah.
Be an adult.
All UK adults have been offered the vaccine now, which is great.
It's free. Yeah.
But all of them have got to that point where they've had contact from NHS, so that's good. So yes, and on another note, I know you're a super fan, Vin. No, you're not. Lewis Hamilton won the British Grand Prix just a few hours ago.
Awesome.
His 99th win.
Not 100th though, so does it
Not
really count?
100th.
Does
No.
it count? I don't think so.
Is it his ninth? Is it his ninth British Grand Prix win?
Doesn't count.
A lot anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
No.
Needs to be 100.
That's-
100 or
that's a lot.
nothing. It's not like it's not like he's the top in the world or anything. You know, there's been people that have won more races, right?
You're saying that because you know I told you the opposite.
I know. I'm just grinding you little.
You're
gears.
making all of
Just
our
twisting
Formula
all the
One
knobs.
fans angry, Vin. We'll
Yeah,
get some
all
comments
one
maybe
of
now.
them. All one of them.
We'll get some comments. But
No.
yeah, I think it was controversial anyway. You don't know about it, but yeah, there was a controversial crash. He had to do a 10-second penalty, and then he came back to still get pole after that. Absolutely amazing.
I don't know what pole means.
And
Sorry,
first.
I've played Forza. That's about it.
It's like when you get first on the leaderboard.
Oh,
of the
okay.
game.
Well, why don't they just say first instead of pole?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe back in the day there was a big pole. I don't know. And maybe they got a Polish guy to come and give the trophies. I don't know.
You have to get out of the car and do a strip. Anyway, we should probably end this before we completely go off the rails. Or the pole. Before we go.
Or the track.
Or the track. See? Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. If you did want to join us again to listen to our terrible jokes and discussion, I guess, then please feel free to subscribe and like and comment, as well as pushing the bell icon to be notified when we do have a new episode come out. But Chris, where can people find you, good sir?
On Twitter, I am at Acrylic Pixel. I've been posting up some progress on my indie game and some interesting facts and ideas about video games as well.
Yeah, very, very busy guy recently.
And YouTube Acrylic Pixel as well.
Cool.
And what about you?
Yep, you can find me. I am on ArtStation at Vin Hill Art. You can find me on there and some of my concept art finger paintings, as it were. I've been posting up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and I've got more to come. So if you are interested in that sort of stuff, then please give me a follow, and I'll probably follow you back because I'm always looking for cool artists. I like following people to see cool stuff. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Hillfort Games. I also post some indie stuff there, as well as on my concept art stuff, as well as I don't know how do I describe
Character
this?
controller, indie game stuff.
Yeah, I just do stuff. Like I'm a creative person, but I also complain a lot. So if you want to come and follow me, then feel free to do so.
Ask him about his finger. He'll love it.
My poor finger. Don't ask me about my finger. It's weird. But yeah, until next time. Ta-ta.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Recording stop.